It is a gorgeous day in what's normally grey old England.
Right, how are you all doing? I am mega psyched for today. Really psyched. Up until maybe later on today, this evening, but for the mornings, the earlier the hours, I am really psyched. I am due a delivery at some point today from Scan Computers. It's a bit from a PC, and I'm crossing every finger. Everything that can be crossed is being crossed, because I have trouble with my PC, and I'm really hoping that this part works. I'm hoping it fixes the issues that I'm having, but I'm not very lucky with hardware of late. So I'm excited but freaking out. Hardware issues though, we noticed yesterday, my laptop's running really hot. Really hot. Should not be idling anywhere near 60 degrees. Like 60 degrees idle. Doing nothing, or near enough nothing. That's not a thing. What that means is, it needs to be cleaned. I have a Zephyrus G14 2021 model, and realistically, Zephyrus G14 owners have been known to post some pretty mank pictures on Reddit. I don't use Reddit, and they say you should probably clean the machine every maybe 3 months. Like just go over the fans, like pop off the bottom and go over the fans every 3 months or so, because it gets proper caked in there, and the thermals on that machine are pretty tight. When things start to get hot, things start to slow down. So we've got a thermal limit of 90 some odd degrees. So it hits 90, that thing hits 90 degrees pretty easily. So I'm gonna pop it open and we're gonna see what we have inside. Probably something delicious. Looking at the bottom, that, I don't know, that depends on what you consider to be absolutely terrible, but that doesn't look too bad. And I remembered that I've got a screw in the bottom corner that it just doesn't want to ever come out. And then I've taken all the screws out and put them on my desk where they need to go. Laptop companies, please do me a favour and just put screws in that make them the same size. Just do a little bit of engineering work and make them the same size. Realistically, actually, all you're going to need at this point, once you've undone all your screws, is a guitar pick, a thin guitar pick, and you want to run it around the edge of your laptop. It's just to pop the clips off. Be careful. You don't want to be breaking clips. You just want to wedge it underneath the plastic. Yeah, or the metal or whatever it is, just wedge it between the seam, just give it a little wiggle and try and run it along the edge, and it should you should hear a click, and they should just pop off or pop out. First time you do it, it's going to suck. Every other time you do it, it's not going to be too bad. It's going to get easier the more you pop the clips. They're going to kind of just, you know, want to pop, but don't force them. Thin guitar pick. It's the moment of truth. Let's have a look at the grime. While that's not completely terrible, that's not the fantastic either. Right, I've got to find a soft brush. What you want to do is hold the fan in place gently to stop it from moving, and then give it a wipe over. Alright? So, I'll do that, and then I'll pop it back together, and then we'll see see if I can get it below like 57 degrees idle. Alright, so I've started it back up and I've let it sit for a little while just to kind of, for the temps to stabilise. It's idling on its performance profile. 47 degrees, we're on what, 60, 62? So a good 10 plus degrees drop. That's a win. That's a win. It's not as low as, I don't remember what it was like when I got it, but I'd like, say, somewhere between 30 and 45. It has dipped as low as 45, but I'd like it to lower. But then if you listen, that's near silent. That's quiet. That's really quiet for a gaming laptop. But, you know, 10 degrees for a bit of dust. Now, you're going to think that's pretty gruesome. Well, that was pretty brutal. But, I mean, in my defense, that was 1 whole year, near enough, of dust. And I've been pretty hardcore about keeping the area that that laptop sits in clean. Just because I know how sensitive laptops are to thermals. Or how sensitive laptop thermals are. How sensitive laptop fans are. It doesn't take a lot for your performance to completely drop off the planet. We had an Asus ROG Strix GL503 VM back in the day, and from the moment we got it, something wasn't right. It seemed fine. I kept it clean, but there was some occasional hitching and stuff. Eventually, after a few months, the fans failed. One of the fans failed. It would kind of like spin up, like, and it would just kind of stop all the time. And at that point, the thermals would just go up and up and up and up. And it wasn't to the point where the machine would crash, but it just wasn't running right. And I mean, obviously, if the fan isn't working properly. Anyway, time passes and I replaced the fan, and all of the issues that we had from the day we got out of the box went away. All stutters and hitching just went away. It didn't hitch all the time and everything, but the few times that it did just went away. All with a new fan. Machines these days, back in the day, your case could be caked in dust. It's not that big of a deal because your machine would run at 1 clock speed the entire time, right? It was just like, I've got a Pentium 133 megahertz processor, or a 166 or whatever, or a 486 running at what, cheese, and it would just run at that speed. It would run at the advertised clock speed. Then we start getting turbo clocks and stuff. Then there were thermal limits put in. So, I mean, your machine back in the day would sit, it would get hot, it would stay, until it got to a point where it would just cut off and fail, right? Now, your machine goes, I've got more to give. Faster, more power, more power, more power. Then it hits a thermal ceiling and then goes, ooh, better scale back a bit. So, if you don't keep things clean, you're never getting full performance out of them. Because it'll just keep ramping back and ramping back and ramping back. And you've paid for performance you're not getting. That's not bad after a year. It's not sitting idle how I'd like it, but I mean, I'm just never going to win it, I don't think. I'm a tad worried about that cooler too, because it's liquid metal, and I've never played with liquid metal before. And taking apart the GL503 VM was a bit of a nightmare. The G550JK weren't too bad. All these long names, just simple names, simple SKUs, but I would have liked 45 degrees. I've heard some SKUs of that laptop get 45 fanless. I ain't getting 45 fanless. I ain't even getting 45 in the performance mode. Performance mode just has the fans turned up. Silent still runs at the clock speeds of, when it's idling, they sit around the same kind of speed, but there's no fans. So, right, let's get on with the day. Well, by getting on with the day, I mean waiting for a package. Hopefully it turns up today. Hopefully it works. Cross your fingers. If I weren't already going bald after tonight, I would be. No doubts about it. I'd be going bald. Hair, like Patience, very, very, very thin. So, I got my package, my delivery, but it's so late. I don't have time to do anything with it. Look at that most sexy box. Isn't it great? It's a big box. And the contents of that box will hopefully liberate
my gorgeous PC from the trash heap. It's not going in the trash heap.
Just for 2 years now I've been plagued with technical issues, and I'm just really hoping that that will fix the issue, although I'm not going to get my hopes up. I'm not going to get my hopes up. Thermals. We need to have a quick little chat about the thermals, although it's funny actually, because the second I pull out the camera, my temps start going up. You son of a... 46. Right, so as you can see there, we are sat at 45 degrees. I am aware that's my processor temperature. It's rated for around 110. You don't really ever want it going to 110. Before anyone freaks out, my GPU is currently only running at 37. Okay? That is still a lot less than what it was this morning. So I stand by what I say. Keep it clean. Now, one of the calls I've got into this evening is from a mate DeWalt. He has a Lenovo Legion 5, just like what my boys have got. He will happily get idle temps of around 35 degrees. Realistically, I think I was being quite unfair on the Zephyrus because it's a really thin laptop. It's kind of like the equivalent of a gaming ultrabook. It's as thin as a gaming laptop can get. And realistically, temps are going to sit in the 40s to 50s. That headroom I gave myself though from cleaning it, so dropping from 60 down to the 40s, like that 15 degrees of extra wiggle room I've given myself, made streaming Zenith today a bit easier. Not hugely easy, like completely easy, not totally smooth, but it was much the better. The more wiggle room you get, the better. So I just wanted to be clear as well. You know, I think I am aware of the limitations, the thermal limitations of that design. Okay, I would just like it if it would sit at 35 degrees, 40 degrees, but it's not realistically going to happen. I mean, I could probably drop it by another 5 degrees. I could probably get 35 degrees if it didn't run the proc at like 3.6 all the time. So if it was more balanced and decided that it would bring the clocks down to say 2 gigahertz or whatever, or less, when idling, those temps would drop quite a bit. It doesn't. The Zeph just doesn't. I can tell it to, I don't want to. So I'd say that's pretty fair. Just remember, as I said, with your laptops and stuff, and your PC realistically, keep them clean. Once upon a time, people didn't really worry about it, but these days with things being based on, like boost clocks and things being based on thermals, there being a thermal ceiling, a thermal cutoff, these things will do whatever they want as long as they've got headroom in the thermals. Keep it clean, you'll be running smooth. If you don't, you're just going to find that the machine's going to get hot, it's going to clock down, it's going to run like turd. Just, your fans are important. And please don't use a Hoover on them. Highlight of my day again, I got to play Tekken with my boys. Well, my boy, my big man. Little leg's not really into the Tekken, but he thrashed me again. I was 2-up this time. I would say it was closer, but you could see he was getting quite frustrated because sometimes we were going like near perfect matches. Like I'd get 2 near perfect rounds, he'd get 2 near perfect rounds. Then all of a sudden he'd get a string of 3 wins, then I'd get a string of a few wins. And yeah, it was pretty hardcore. I really need to get my combos down though, because it does prove to be a bit awkward when he 10 strings you a couple of times and you hit the deck. But oh, it's fun. And the sleep. I got some again. I got more. I think I got more than yesterday. And that's good. Because in the last 2, nearly 3 weeks, I've managed to gain like an hour per night sleeping just by being sure that I go to bed before 11:30. That's not going to happen tonight, but you know. It's been a stressful night. Meeting tonight, not great. Same as last week, not great. But I think that is pretty much the everything. I am now going to head off before I get another phone call or FaceTime call or text message or whatever. I know it's been kind of thrown together towards the end, but whatever. I will crack open that box, and that will be the basis of the tomorrow, I think. So I can give it a test, we can stress test it and watch as my PC melts. Poor PC. I realistically need to get a compressor, to be honest. Air compressor, just so I can blast the fins of the CPU cooler and that. But yeah. Hope you're well. If I forgot anything, stuff it, and I'll see you all with a bit of luck in the next one. So many contradictions. So many contradictions.